Hey, good morning. Pastor Chris here. Welcome to Poolside Chat. I realized something. The only thing you ever see is like my fish in my wall. If I turn this around, though, all you'll see is like a big blaring sun over a pool. But look. See? That's my view. I do have a pool. Oops. Lost you. There you go. Yeah, I've gotten so many questions on Texas. So many. But one of the things that I wanted to address is something I addressed last Sunday. I went back to Virginia. I think I mentioned Preaching Old Church. And something that I shared that nobody really knew is, what is a chaplain? What are we? What do we do? And I want to talk about this because all of a sudden in the conversations and the public stories, there's a lot of talk, a lot of recognition of chaplains. And I've seen chaplains, first responder, which is what I am. I've seen some disaster relief chaplains, also what I am. I don't know if I just watched for them, if I noticed them, but there's a lot of conversation, which is a great thing. But what are we? What do we do out there? So I'll tell you what a chaplain does and what the difference is between a chaplain and a pastor. So a pastor is someone who has a flock, a group of people, a church, and helps them know and grow. There's a Christian chaplain. Know and grow in faith in Jesus Christ. He encourages them, he teaches them, he admonishes them, he counsels them, and he invites others to come into his group because it's not a closed group, it's an open group. And we want to share and bring more people into the flock. A pastor tends to a flock of people, tends to a group, tends to a church. Chaplain doesn't have a church. The world is the chaplain's area of ministry. So there are different kinds of chaplains. I imagine some we have first responder chaplains, which is fire chaplains, law enforcement chaplains. We had, and all these chaplains require not only specific chaplains training, but then you get even more specific for the people that you minister to. You have community chaplains, you have first responder chaplains, you have prison chaplains, hospital chaplains, military chaplains, business chaplains. What other kind of chaplains do we have? Hospice chaplains. But we're all over the place. And we minister to all the people in that group. So what you are seeing right now is chaplains who have a specific calling to the groups of people that are affected by this flood in Texas. Community chaplains who reach out to the people in the community. You have first responder chaplains who minister to those serving. I heard something which I kind of disagree with a little bit. There's trying to think of the group, I think it was a Cajun Navy, said they're only bringing in people that have military combat experience because they've seen a whole lot, and they were going to see a whole lot of, sad to say, a whole lot of injury and death out there in Texas. The implication was they could handle it. I heard a firefighter once say, anyone can be a firefighter. Anyone can do this stuff. We have been called, we are ordinary people, no, how do you say it? We are ordinary people who have been called to do an extraordinary job. And they still get hurt by this. And I would hope that they would, because that's part of the humanity. So there is a book that I read. It's written by actually a military chaplain. and it's called When the World Breaks Your Heart. And he was the first chaplain on scene of United Flight 232. That is the DC-10 that crashed in Sioux City, Iowa. Amazing, amazing story. Over 100 people died, but 200 lived. Absolutely amazing. Happened back in 1989. And one of the things that I just learned when I was researching this, I won't go into the story, but they had test pilots who tried to fly this plane the way it happened, lost an engine, it exploded, lost all their hydraulics, they lost their flight controls, their rudder control, lost everything. It was a survivable accident, and it said all the test pilots that tried to fly and land this, none of them could do it successfully. It's called the impossible landing, and they did it. But the reason I mention this is because this chaplain, and all of us have crazy amounts of training. I mean, we get trained in not only the fundamentals of our faith and pastoral ministry, we also get trained, in my case, in multiculturalism and multicultural ministry and suicide intervention and suicide prevention, postvention, trauma care, emotional exhaustion. Oh gosh, what else do I have? Psychological first aid, stress first aid, critical incident stress management, all sorts of stuff, all sorts of, initials and certificates, and I'm not minimizing that. But what the author of the book, and I can't remember his name, sir, I'm sorry, he said when he went onto that scene was all these injuries and death and life, he said he threw that book right out the window because it doesn't train you for something like that. And one of the things in chaplaincy, we're supposed to be the command, we're supposed to be the stoic stalwart that is there to help others. And when he ran into two kids, they were almost catatonic because both of their parents died in this crash, he sat with them and cried because that's what they needed. So it goes against what they train you, at least what they trained you for at that time. But what we are there to do, and someone told me this, a chaplain is a minister in the workplace. They meet people where they're at, and they meet those needs. So I'm glad to see the chaplains out there, and I'm really glad that people can see what they do. And why do we do this? There's a verse here, Matthew 20:28. And unlike pastors, I can point chapter and verse what pastoral ministry is, what the qualifications are, what the duties are, and what the standards are. I go to Titus, I go to 1st and 2nd Timothy. There is no spot I can tell you what they do, but there are lots of verses that describe what we do. And Matthew 20:28 is one of them. Just as the Son of Man did not come to be served, but to serve. And in a nutshell, that's what chaplains do. We're called to serve our specific groups, and that's what we do. We're there to meet people where they're at and listen to them, cry with them, and encourage them. And we do have a hat, should have worn my hat, that says chaplain, and there is an authority that comes with that. So we don't have to say it. As somebody once said, we're called as Christians to show the people Jesus Christ. And if necessary, we use words. And that's what we do. We just go out there and serve, lean on God, look to his leading. And just through that leading, give the people what they need. So that's a chaplain. So thanks for listening, and please keep these folks in Texas in your prayers. It's a hard time for everyone, including the first responders and including the chaplains. Not to mention the people that have suffered loss. Good gosh. But this has just touched so many lives. So keep praying, and that's everything. I'm Pastor Chris. Keep the questions coming. Facebook, YouTube, Rumble, at FL Compass Church, and now on Instagram, at FL Compass Church. Have a great weekend, and remember, tomorrow's Sunday. So go to church, worship God, and let's keep praying for these folks. See you Wednesday.